Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Southern Cross University's Open Day for 2023. Thank you for joining our panel session today for our Sport and Exercise Science degree. So my name is Gurpreet Singh. I'm currently a student ambassador here at Southern Cross University. Also had done Sport and Exercise Science in my undergrad and currently a PhD student in the faculty. I'll also be the host for this session. So this panel session is really designed to get further insight into studying at Southern Cross University, specifically the Sport and Exercise Science degree. It will run for around 25 minutes and we'll have some time for questions at the end. Please ask some questions at the end. Please don't be scared of asking any questions. We're here to help today. Further insight into the degree is what our role is today. So we'll have some dedicated time for that. So I feel very privileged to welcome our amazing panelists today. We have a current exercise science student with Jasmine. We have two faculty members, Jody and Jenna, and we have a current Southern Cross University alumni, Tim, at the end. So what I might start off this session is just to get everyone just to quickly introduce yourselves and just your connection to Southern Cross University. I'll start with Jasmine.
Okay, hi everyone. So yes, I'm Jasmine and I'm in my second year of studying at Southern Cross. So I'm doing a double degree of exercise science and psychological science. So yes, I'm in my second year of study. And I'm a student.
Awesome, thanks. Jenna?
Hi, I'm Jenna. I'm almost in my first full year of working here at Southern Cross Uni. So I am in exercise and sports science as an academic, and I run our work integrated learning program in that space, meaning kind of the industry placements you do, help organise getting your hours for your strength and conditioning accreditation, help you find volunteer positions from first year onwards so you can get as much experience as possible. And I'm also an accredited exercise physiologist, so I do a bit of private practice myself in the oncology space especially.
Welcome everyone. So I've met some of you today already, which is fantastic, and a few new faces. So my name is Jody Cochran-Wilkie. I'm the course coordinator for the Bachelor of Clinical Exercise Physiology. I run that degree, work with the students, and also teach into that degree as well. But I can also talk to our Bachelor of Sport and Exercise Science as well. And I'm also an accredited exercise physiologist and was very fortunate to shift over to here from the West Coast last year and loving working at Southern Cross University and what they've done with their new Southern Cross model, which we'll talk about as we go through as well. So welcome.
Thanks. Tim?
My name's Tim Rice. My connection to Southern Cross started in 2014 when I enrolled here as a student. I did the Bachelor of Sport and Exercise Science and then went on to do the Clinical Exercise Physiology. So since then I'm actually back here working with Southern Cross. So I'm supervising the health clinic down in Lismore with the exercise physiology students down there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing insight into your connection to Southern Cross University, some new members, but also probably it's awesome to have you on board and, current student and a current alumni of the university. So I'm going to start with our faculty members first of all, and just to give a bit more of an overview of what the Sport and Exercise Science degree offers, so what it involves, and potentially some of the other degrees that you could do with that. So that might be the Clinical Exercise Physiology degree on top of that.
So at Southern Cross University, we offer 3 degrees in the exercise area. So we have the Bachelor of Sport and Exercise Science, so that is a 3-year degree, and with that you can choose a major in strength and conditioning and coaching, a major in the teaching area, and or also a major in the business and management area as well. Okay. We also have a Bachelor of Clinical Exercise Physiology, so that's a 4-year degree. So with that, the first 2 years are the same as your Bachelor of Sport and Exercise Science. So we do have students that may choose to do Bachelor of Sport and Exercise Science and then transfer across to the Bachelor of Clinical Exercise Physiology after their second year if that interests them, or vice versa. So we've made it the same in the first 2 years so you can have a think about what you really want to do and what your direction might be. And then the other degree that we have is the Bachelor of Exercise Science and Psychological Science. So that is a 4-year degree, which Jasmine is studying, and you become an accredited exercise scientist, but you're also doing the psychology. So you can then choose if you want to stay in that exercise science area, go on and do extra study to become a qualified psychologist, or use both and work in that area of exercise science and psychology, which is a growing area. So in terms of work, there's lots of different work opportunities with all those different degrees. The clinical exercise physiology, you become an accredited exercise physiologist, going to that area, working with clients with chronic conditions, injuries, and using exercise to help them in improving their function or their quality of life. The Bachelor of Sport and Exercise Science, again, can go into lots of different areas in terms of that exercise science, but can also, with that major in teaching, you can go on to do teaching later with the Masters of Teaching. But I'll leave it there and then maybe answer some questions around that as we go through.
So thanks for that. So it's quite a practical, hands-on degree, you'd say. And a lot of our students go into, do they really go into more of the clinical side? Is it a bit of a range? Do some go into more high performance? What types of areas of work do our graduates go into?
So with the clinical exercise physiology degree, you do come out as an accredited exercise physiologist. So there is certain work that you can then go into. You can go into working in hospitals. There are positions where exercise physiology work in varied positions depending on the hospital, whether it's mental health or working with clients that have patients that have oncology. Going into the workplace rehabilitation area as well. Or working in private clinics with people with clinical conditions. In terms of the exercise science, there's again a whole range of areas that we can go into. Working in community sport, working with fitness area, working in elite sport, working in strength and conditioning. A range. Do you want to add any more to that?
Sure. And exercise science also has a lot of growing space in kind of the preventative health. So we're seeing them a lot more integrated in workplaces with kind of workplace wellbeing, working alongside HR. Mining sites are another kind of probably untapped area. Schools are starting to integrate a lot more individuals, bringing in kind of holistic wellbeing programs and things. So exercise scientists really have a great space in that space as well.
Yeah, so quite a number of ways you can take the degree, which is really good. Gives you a lot more flexibility with the degree. Going to Jasmine, interesting that with your double degree with the psychological science, and after doing the degree, I always thought it's quite easy to write a training program for an individual or an exercise program for someone. But how do you actually keep them motivated? So it's a really interesting. I think it's a really awesome degree that we do offer. So what made you study, the double degree here at Southern Cross University?
Yeah, so I came to uni straight after school. I graduated in 2021 and then came here in 2022. And the reason I chose this degree was because I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked PE and I liked psychology at school. So when I was looking for unis and what they offered, I saw Southern Cross, which is close to where I live. And I mean, location is beautiful, and there was a degree of psychology and exercise science. So I was like, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do, but that's exactly what I like. It was literally my two interests put into one degree. So then I chose that.
Yeah, awesome. As I mentioned before, it's a very hands-on, practical degree, which involves some hours of placement. So I'm going to ask Jenna, who actually overlooks our placements for the degree, how many hours of placement do our undergrad students need to have, and what types of placement can they do?
So don't get overwhelmed. We have 140 hours in the exercise and sports science, so kind of usually at the end of your second year, start of your third year, you do your first industry placement. That's working with more primarily healthy populations. We try to split it across 2 different sites too, so you get a bit of chance to explore different things. Again, this can be with schools, community sporting organisations, gyms, fitness centres. We've got some workplaces that have opportunities, as well as some of the exercise physiology clinics where you can actually deliver exercise to their clinical clients under that supervision. And then if you go into exercise physiology, you've got another 360 hours on top of that. And that's spread throughout the year, so don't panic. But that's working in those more clinical settings. So it could be in a hospital, it can be in a private clinic, community rehab. We've got a lot of mobile providers, so you get to travel, all over if you're with one of those sites, as well as our health clinics that are on campus. So at Lismore and Gold Coast, we have student-led Southern Cross health clinics. So you get a chance to be in there as well, often as an exercise scientist student and exercise physiology student. So lots of really hands-on learning and really great chance to get experience, but also have lots of opportunities to kind of volunteer and get involved from year one as well. So you can really get a taste and make sure you like this.
Yeah, awesome. I know Tim currently supervises some of our placement students. As a student, when you were going through, how did you find the balance between, doing your placements and actually having to study at the same time? And now, what would that reflection look like now that you're actually supervising students, and do you have any advice for them?
So when I was going through, I was actually working as my own business, doing personal training as well. So I was training my own clients, I was training clients in the clinic, and then I was doing my studies on top of that. So I really got a lot of really valuable hands-on experience working with actual real-life clients. And that's really foundational for your development as a practitioner. It's one thing to learn about it in a textbook and the lectures, and that gives you one level of understanding, but actually doing the thing and being there with the people in real life is another level on top of that. So my advice for people going through the course would be to just embrace the opportunity and just see everything as an opportunity to grow and develop your skills. Because if you kind of look at the workload as an entirety, you can get a little bit overwhelmed by it, but just sort of break it down, turn up every day, and just seize every day as an opportunity to get better.
Yeah, awesome. I think something really important with exercise. We're I'd class Gold Coast as a regional area with other campuses in Northern Rivers and our COFS campus. Exercise science and clinical exercise physiology comes under that umbrella term of allied health. There's a big need. Southern Cross University really strives ourselves to be a very community-oriented university, meaning that we really want to help the community that surrounds us. That may be in exercise. There's a lot of jobs out there for clinical exercise physiologists, exercise scientists working in gyms, working in practice, really benefiting the community. And that's what we really, really strive for here. And I think we'll ask our panel members soon, but we've all probably if you've been in other panels, we've all talked about the one-on-one more time you get with our academics and our tutors here. That gives you those connections, and I think that's a really, really important part of being at Southern Cross University as a student. I think it's a big advantage we have over other institutes, is just that one-on-one connection with our academics. They're the ones that know where the connections are for jobs. That networking opportunity is really important. I think having that is so important. So I might ask, Jasmine, how have you found the classes in terms of studying? How the support through academics? Have you enjoyed it? What do you think has been the most beneficial part of your learning process?
Yeah, well, I've really enjoyed my studies so far. We've been doing tutorials, workshops, labs, all sorts of different classes, really. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I would say the classes are quite small compared to other unis, but I really like that. I went to quite a big school, so I'm used to having big classes in big rooms with lots of different people. But with the classes that I have here, it's it depends. There might be 20, there might be less than that. And the teacher knows your name, you know everyone in your class. It's a lot more personal than I think other unis. So that's something that I've really enjoyed. It's really community based. I feel comfortable in my classes, personal, things like that. What was the other part of the question?
You've answered pretty much that question.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think that it's very personal, and because of the smaller classes, you're not just a number in the back of the lecture theatre.
Yeah, you touched on some of the things you may do in class. So you have different types of classes. So that might be a tutorial or a workshop or a practical. I guess I'll open this up to the whole panel. What are some of the activities, or in the labs or something that students may need to do? Obviously, they have the fundamental units, which might be anatomy, physiology. But then when you start actually going into more of your majors and you actually start to specialize in what you're studying, what types of activities may students do in some of our labs? I'll open it up to anyone. I've got a few favourites. I'll leave that to the end.
You probably know better. We've got lots of, not toys, but expensive equipment that you get to play with. So we've got a range of kind of 3D motion capture, force plates, making biomechanics more than just maths, and really turning it into that practical side of things. From the kind of exercise physiology side of things, ECGs, you get to be subjects on fun treadmill tests and bike tests. We've got gyms on each of the campus to actually get in and get hands-on with strength conditioning units, exercise program and prescription, learning how to do lots of different testing. So a range of equipment that you get exposure to, as well as strength conditioning equipment, exercise equipment, etc. So you're getting a lot of the hands-on practical experience rather than just that kind of classroom-based component. So a lot of the on-campus activities are really those hands-on chances to interact with your classmates, interact with your academics. She doesn't have either of us at the moment, so that was totally not pressure. And really get that chance to connect, because a lot of the people that you go to class with might be your former colleagues, your future colleagues, or your future employers as well. So really getting to make those connections is a big difference, especially when you're getting to use each other as test subjects.
Yeah, do you have anything to add, Joe?
Well, I might add, one of the unique things about Southern Cross University is we have changed our model here. So we do have 2 units that you study in 6 weeks. So rather than the old model where you would have 4 units and you do it over 13 weeks, you've only got the 2 units to study within that 6 weeks, which means you don't have 4 assignments, 4 exams, all happening at the same time. And so it does give you that opportunity to really focus in and learn those 2 units well. And we've changed it as well, so you're not sitting in the lecture theatre, which a lot of students don't end up showing up to these days. We do a lot of online interactive learning, so it's really helping to engage the students, and it makes for a better learning environment. And then when you come into the classroom, it's really practical, engaging, hands-on. So we have tried to change it in that way. I'll back up, what the others have said, that the class sizes are really good, that we do get to know all of our students, which is great. Teaching the clinical exercise physiology students as well. They're in the clinic 1 day a week, so I'll pop down there every week and have a chat to them and see how they're going and if there's anything that they need. And so I get to know all the students and help them as they're going along. If they're getting a bit stressed with anything, we can work things out. If they have questions, we can work things out. So it is a really good environment, I've found.
Yeah, and in terms of I'll ask Tim, I guess, in more of the clinical side, in terms of assessments for students, what type of assessments may students experience, in clinical exercise physiology and even in exercise science? Is it a bit of a range? Is it presentations? Is it actually in a lab?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that we do in the clinic is all competency-based. So there's different sort of competencies that you've got to tick off in terms of your ability to run assessments and deliver exercise programs and write those programs and be able to interpret sort of the results of different assessments to prescribe appropriate interventions for the clients in a safe and effective way. So as far as from a clinical supervisor role, it's mainly just sort of marking the students off on those assessments, those competency lists, and once they do have all those competencies ticked off, then they can sit their OSCE exam, which is kind of their final sort of capstone exam. That once they finish that, then they can sort of graduate and go out into the real world and get a job and work with real clients without being looked over by a supervisor.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question is because I didn't realise until going to the later years of my undergraduate degree, you might have a presentation as an assessment, and you might think, why am I doing a group assessment as a presentation in class in exercise science? But that transfers over. If you're working in a gym, or you're working with an athlete or an individual, teaching them to do a new movement pattern, that might be a squat. How do you actually explain how to do that in a very easy manner that they understand? So it all transfers over, and it's very. I find it very. A lot of people overlook that element of those things. So we have a range of different assessment types. And I think with the new 6x6 model, it works very, very well. We get a lot of that one-on-one and we're able to really focus on those personal skills to improve our students. I guess in terms of we've talked about career pathways. We've talked a lot about. Is there any advice you'd give potential students about, if they're looking to work in the exercise industry? It might be in the sports industry, it might be more of a clinical industry. Is there any advice you may give to them? Tim, is there anything you'd want to give some advice?
Yeah, biggest word of advice for anyone that's kind of looking into getting into this sort of field is get in the gym and start training yesterday if you're not already doing it. There's no replacement for getting in and doing the thing yourself. Every exercise that you prescribe to a client or an athlete you should understand what that feels like. So you should have done it yourself first. Otherwise, you're kind of just, getting too far along the theory train and not really actually getting practical about it. And I think, as we've all kind of touched on, this sort of faculty is very practically based. So my biggest advice is get in there and actually start training yourself.
Yeah, I remember when I started, I was very rare in a gym, and then I thought, I'm going to actually start training and getting better at what I'm actually going to be teaching or prescribing individuals after my degree. So I think that makes a really big influence. So we've got a couple of minutes now to open up the floor to any questions the audience may have. So please raise your hand, and does anyone have a question? Yep. Yeah, great question. So the question for everyone is what types of support services students may have at doing the degree. Anyone want to open that up?
So the first support mechanism would obviously be your unit assessor. So they coordinate your units and they're your teacher for the classroom. So the way that we have structured the Southern Cross University model is that we now have similar processes across everything. So it's really clear. We all have the same assessment brief and a similar rubric. So we've re-evaluated everything and made it a lot more clearer for the students. We also, so then if you're having any questions, your first port of call would be going to your lecturer, your unit assessor, and they will help you with that. But Southern Cross University is great. There's lots of extra help there for students because we want students to succeed. So we also have learning advisors that you can go and get help with as well. So the unit assessors can put you onto those, or you can go to the client services and they can put you onto them, and they can help you too.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources for students across. There might be library support, academic support, and even counselling support if needed.
We've also got a really strong inclusion and disability group as well that you can register for. They'll liaise with your unit assessors to outline any extra requirements or support you need. So there's a really great process on that side. And we've got quite an active student life organisation on all three campuses as well. So there's social sport. Every Wednesday there's bean bags, and there was a petting zoo last week that I missed apparently. So lots of activities to really support that kind of health and wellness beyond just the official kind of counselling and support services.
Awesome. I want to thank the panelists, all members of the panel today for their incredible insight into our degree here at Southern Cross University.